Will Campbell is officially a member of the New England Patriots. We break it all down here on PatsCast.
Short arms don't care, he locks them down. LSU pride, now Foxborough bound.
Welcome to PatsCast. I'm Brad Whitaker. Good to be with you. It has finally happened. Will Campbell, the 4th overall selection to the New England Patriots. And look, I know this is not a sexy pick. You know, last year they got a quarterback, Drake May. The year before, they got the best young cornerback in the NFL, Christian Gonzalez. And it would have been fun to have like a threefer and add Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter in there. But they made the right choice. You know, when all is said and done, this is ultimately the right decision. You know, I did talk myself into the Ashton Genty stuff over the last 48 hours a little bit. Got a little excited about it. Because that would have been fun, right? To bring in a running back just like that. But how much room is he going to have to run if he has no blocking in front of him? And the truth is, this has been an issue for the New England Patriots ever since they drafted Isaiah Wynn in 2018. Yeah, they had Trent Brown in there who got you about a year and a half, roughly, of good football. Most of that coming in the 2018 season in which they won the Super Bowl and in part of 2019. But for the most part, it has been a garbage heap at left tackle. And we've gone through lots of quarterbacks in that time. Obviously, you had Tom Brady, you had Cam Newton, Mac Jones, and now we have Drake May. And it really hasn't gotten any better. In fact, it's gotten worse in that time. You know, got worse under Mac. Mac had good protection as a rookie. Cam Newton had okay protection as well. And then it all fell apart with the Matt Patricia experiment. And then the year after with the Bill O'Brien, Bill Belichick experiment. The offensive line, they didn't do anything to address it that season. Last year, they added Chuks Okorafor. Lasted about 2 minutes on the field in Cincinnati before he literally quit on the team. And now he's with the Jets, which is hilarious. Chuks Okorafor, you had Caden Wallace that you brought in to swing from right tackle to left. Didn't work out. Vidarian Lowe played better last year, in my opinion. But he's nothing better than a backup. I'm fine with Vidarian Lowe as a backup, but as a long-term starter, you needed a huge upgrade there. And all of those guys that I just mentioned, Trent Brown included, Will Campbell is going to be a massive upgrade from. And look, we know the concerns. We know the red flags. We've talked about it ad nauseum, about the arm length. Is it 32 and 5/8? Is it 33 inches? We really still want 34-inch tackles, but we can work with 33, but he might be under that. Is that going to limit him in the NFL? I don't know. We'll see how it ultimately plays out, but the floor on this guy is very high. And that's the most important thing, is that you need competency on that offensive line that we haven't had for many, many years, as I just said. And worst case scenario, this is the worst case scenario, he's a Pro Bowl caliber NFL left or right guard. That is the worst case scenario. And the best case scenario is he's an all-pro level left tackle. Now, I'm not sure he's going to be quite that good with the limitations that you have there, but he has very clean tape. He's gone up against SEC competition for 3 years straight. Won the job immediately as a freshman in Baton Rouge. Started all 38 games for LSU. Obviously, he was part of some incredible offenses in that time with Jaden Daniels this past year. LSU had a pretty good offense this previous year. And yeah, he was a day one starter as a freshman, decorated All-American Showcase as a junior, allowed just 5 total sacks his entire career in college across 2,553 snaps. And I know that's like not an unusual statistic for a first-round starting left tackle, but you have to remember, he did that in the SEC, and he did that over the course of 3 years starting as a freshman. 5 sacks total. In fact, he went, 24 games without surrendering a sack. A 24-game streak. No sacks allowed. That's more than an entire season at LSU. So, look, I know the concerns, and maybe some people like Garmin Membu, maybe a lot like Josh Simmons at left tackle. Maybe you wanted them to take Tet McMillan or one of the tight ends, Tyler Warren, as Tom Curran's been talking about for many months. This is the decision that plugs all of the major holes, right? They've plugged all of the holes at this point. Everything is just decoration now. They can take the best player available for the rest of this draft and feel just fine about it because they address left tackle. Had they done, what I was kind of thinking about, drafting Ashton Genty at 4th overall, then you're looking at reaching at a tackle in the 2nd round or hoping that Ariante Ursary falls to you or trading back into the 1st round and trying to get Kelvin Banks or Josh Simmons or one of those players. And also last year there was a huge run on tackles in the late 1st round, and you may not get that trade opportunity as the Patriots tried to do last year. It would have been a real mess, and in all likelihood, if the Patriots had not taken Will Campbell here, we would still be having this conversation next year. And I also kind of feel that way about Armin Membu, too. The more I've read about Armin Membu, this is just a draft combine guy, right? This is just a super athletic, can do everything you ask of him tackle, but limitations. 2 inches shorter than Will Campbell. Yeah, he does have the arm length, but there's a reason he was a right tackle at Missouri and not a left tackle. And maybe he'll work out and be a good NFL player, but, they tried it with Caden Wallace last year, the experiment, moving him from the right side to the left side. Didn't work out. Looks like they're going to stick him at the right for the long term and hope he can develop behind Morgan Moses. This was the right choice. The Patriots got, if Josh Simmons had stayed healthy, he probably would have been the pick here. But because of Josh Simmons' injury and his chances of recovering from that, I think Will Campbell was ultimately the best tackle available in this draft. And yeah, maybe he's the 10th ranked player. Draft Buzz has him at the 7th overall player on their board. Who cares? It's all a crapshoot between 4 and 15 in this draft anyways. After the blue chip players, this was the right selection, and I'm ultimately glad that the Patriots did it, even if it's not the sexy selection. But Will Campbell, elite recovery ability, exceptional athleticism, displays outstanding grip strength and hand placement, exceptional football IQ, picks up on stunts and delayed blitzes. He's a real leader in the locker room, master technician in pass protection, brings nasty finishing attitude in the run game. That's just his attitude overall. I just love listening to the guy speak. Love that Louisiana accent. He's kind of like a baritone Theo Vaughn. Talked to Kay Adams earlier today, and he said he really likes Mike Vrabel. Mike Vrabel is his guy. He is Mike Vrabel. They are the same personality. That's basically what Will Campbell said. Going to be an excellent pick. We heard over the last couple of days that Mike Vrabel fell in love with Will Campbell, and that's ultimately why they made this choice. It's a good fit, right? For the culture that the Patriots, that Mike Vrabel is trying to implement, that kind of fell apart, not just with Gerard Mayo, but the last few years with Bill Belichick. He stopped bringing down the hammer at a certain point, and Mike Vrabel is trying to restore that culture with a little more empathy for the players than Belichick had, because Vrabel is a former player. Will Campbell fits that mold perfectly. Beautiful fluidity, working to the 2nd level, especially on combo blocks, where he seamlessly transitions from down blocks to linebacker targets. Exceptional anchor ability once engaged, using strong base and leverage to absorb and redirect power rushers. Natural knee bender who maintains leverage through contact. And going off Draft Buzz, not a ton of weaknesses here. There is the arm length. We know that. There's the shoulder length. There's the wingspan. All of that, we know. That's why he's not a top 3 pick. And that's why the Patriots had him available. Shows tendency to overset against speed rushers off the edge, creating vulnerability to inside counter moves that can compromise the pocket. And this was a red flag that Greg Bedard has brought up this week, that the tape it's clean tape. It's the cleanest tape in college football. Maybe Josh Simmons is cleaner, but by far the cleanest tape if you separate those two from the rest of the pack. But there is film of him going against the cream of the crop edge rushers in the SEC, and he struggles at times. And he's going to be going up against elite speed rushers every game of his life the rest of the way in the NFL. Is that going to create more vulnerabilities? He tends to overplay on the outside and create openings on the inside against edge rushers. So hopefully with a little bit of coaching, Doug Marrone, that veteran coaching staff that they have in the offensive line room, now that you have Josh McDaniels there, hopefully they can coach him up and he'll be better at that. Will occasionally narrow his base width through sustained blocks, causing his anchor to deteriorate against prolonged bull rushes. Can get caught playing with high pad level when working in space, particularly when targeting second-level defenders on outside zone plays. So again, when he's really isolated and he's going up against super athletic players, those are really the only instances where he struggles. Displays some predictability in his punch timing that savvy NFL rushers may exploit, particularly when isolated on an island. So, look, I'm glad Josh McDaniels is there, because if these weaknesses, and there aren't many weaknesses relative, and I'm going off of Draft Buzz, relative to the other offensive linemen, he has a shorter list. And the biggest concern, of course, is the arm length, and how is he on an island against really athletic NFL players? But that's it. And the fact that you have Josh McDaniels there to kind of scheme up things, if he does struggle with that, to coach around it, that was my biggest complaint with Alex Van Pelt last year, is you just had so many struggles with that offensive line all season long. And yeah, occasionally he would bring in a sixth offensive lineman, but for the most part, he was not scheming around it. He was not having a tight end or even a halfback chip as often as he should, and Josh McDaniels is a master at that kind of stuff. That's part of the reason Patriots won the Super Bowl in 2018. They did not have the offensive line that they quite had in previous seasons, so they got rid of the football really quickly and relied on the running game and schemed around it. And I think he's going to bring that back, and if Will Campbell struggles, McDaniels can work around it. But again, I don't think he's going to struggle. I think there's an 80% chance this guy is your long-term left tackle, 20% chance he's your long-term left guard, and I pretty much give it a 0 that he's going to be a bust and doesn't get a second contract in New England. I think he's going to be here for years to come. The question is he a long-term left tackle, or are you going to have to kick him over to guard and figure that out some other time? But we'll see what happens. Going to be interesting to see what the Patriots do with this next pick. They're drafting 38th overall early in the second round, but not super early, right? And we know what they need right now. They've plugged all the glaring holes. So there is nothing that is major. They can take the best player available. One thing that I mentioned in my mock draft a couple of days ago is the need to add a free safety. A free safety like Devin McCourty, I think, would make such a difference. However, I'm not sure that's the second round is when you make that selection. You probably can find a good free safety somewhere in the third or fourth round. I would really like to see them address that position. Wide receiver is obviously what's on everyone's mind. I would not be shocked if the Patriots didn't take a wide receiver here. I know everyone's expecting it, but you still have a very crowded receiving room right now with Stephon Diggs, Mac Hollins, who you brought in, Demario Douglas, Kendrick Bourne, Kayshon Boutte, Jalen Polk, Javon Baker. Presumably some of these guys are going to be traded away. Kayshon Boutte is rumored to be on the trade block. I'd be shocked if Kendrick Bourne even comes back, although he did work well with Josh McDaniels his last stint in New England, so maybe they keep Bourne around. But I don't know. I'd be happy if they went and got a good receiver. You know, some of the names, Hendricks, Jalen Noel playing opposite him. You have Kyle Williams. If Luther Burden falls because of, character concerns, he would be a great pick at 38, could be your boundary guy for years to come. I would not be upset, but what I would prefer they do is to double down on the offensive line. So whether that's taking a tackle like Ariante Ursary, who, is not as polished as Will Campbell. Certainly the film is not as good as Will Campbell, but he does have more of the prototype to fit at left tackle if it doesn't work out with Will Campbell. But in all likelihood, he's your left guard starting beside Will Campbell. That's a good idea. I love, and this is what I did in my mock draft, Donovan Jackson out of Ohio State. Be interesting to see where he goes. He's the guy who started at left guard, did an excellent job, and then took over for Josh Simmons at left tackle when he went down with an injury. We know what happened there. They won the national title. Josh Simmons played excellently at left tackle. Love to take him and put him at left guard or have him compete with Will Campbell for the left tackle spot, and the odd man out starts at left guard. That's my preference, but you could go either way. Wide receiver, offensive line. This is also a very deep draft at tight end. We know the Patriots have room to add another edge rusher to line up opposite Keon White. So that's not going to be Abdul Carter, but there's a lot of decent edge rushers in this draft. Maybe they address running back early. This is a deep draft, not just at tight end, but also at running back. Those are really the only two positions where it has a ton of depth. Maybe they want to get a really good player in the second round at one of those two positions. But I'm hoping for just another offensive lineman, building a fortress up front for Drake May, making his life a little bit easier, and then maybe taking another receiver later or trading for one that might be dangled out by an NFL team, a veteran. That'd be a little bit better, in my opinion. But let me know in the comments if you're watching on YouTube. Are you happy with the Will Campbell pick? What would you have liked to see them do instead if you're not? And what would you like to see them do either in the second round, or do you see them trading back into the late first round to take a receiver or the next best offensive lineman available? Curious to hear from you, and if you're watching on YouTube, be sure to smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, hit that notification bell, or subscribe if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. We might be back tonight with another podcast if the Patriots do indeed trade up and make another selection, or if they make a big trade in the later rounds and bring in a veteran or something. We'll be back with more draft coverage. Otherwise, we'll see you tomorrow on day 2 of the NFL Draft. You're not going to want to miss it.
Short arms don't care, he locks them down. LSU pride, now Foxborough bound. Leader in the room, tone setter type. Fits that Vrabel mold, hard-nosed hype. PatsCast, you heard it first. Campbell's in, protecting that burst. Mace blindside locked all day. This line's got heart, no cheap cliche. Clean tape, cleaner rep. Plays through the whistle, earns respect. Locker room glue, never backs away. Blue collar beller, built to stay. PatsCast, you heard it first. Campbell's in, protecting that burst. Mace blindside locked all day. This line's got heart, no cheap cliche. Vrabel's vision, now taking shape. No flash, no